Hello and welcome everyone to episode 51 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
New arc hype!
Right? We are smack dab in a new arc. Technically, the first chapter just finishes off the last arc, but honestly, it's so seamless that it kind of works.
We're going into it. Getting into a new arc in One Piece always just has like that. It's the freshest sense of adventure and just having like, you don't know what's happening, they don't know what's happening, and it's just all a lot of new information and a lot just like the fresh newness of a new setting.
Right. It's like, what's this? What's this? How is this different? And it's finding ways to still feel unique is impressive, to say the least. However, before we really get into these chapters, I was editing the last episode, and as of our recording, it isn't out for everybody yet. So I'm kind of sure we're going to get some comments about this. So apologies in retrospect, I guess. 2 things that we mentioned that we talked about but didn't go into. The first one is we were talking about the indication that Shanks is a big deal. And we're like, was that the first time that we had gotten that it had seemed like such a big deal for Shanks? Technically, it's the second, because I remembered as I was editing, oh, right, he hung out with Mihawk.
Oh, yeah. I actually did forget about that completely.
Yeah.
Right now.
It still doesn't tell you much, except that he's friends with Mihawk, but it's still kind of funny that the government's like, we can't let Shanks and Whitebeard meet, and Mihawk's right there. It's like, I was just hanging out with the dude.
Yeah, it sounds like Shanks hanging out with a warlord of the sea is like that is pretty big, but then it's sort of supplanted by the fact that he's meeting with like Whitebeard, who is the strongest person in the world, I think, like his title card had said, or something like that. And again, just the fact that I still love that scene and how Shanks is just like, I guess we'll just go see him. Like, he doesn't care.
The other bigger thing that we were just we were blown away by everything else surrounding it, kind of the reveal itself, but it's also just this thing tucked in there, not really made a big deal of until you kind of look at it. Blackbeard's name is Marshall D. Teach. He's another one of the D's. Because we've had Luffy, then we got, I believe, Roger was the next one. It was actually Gold D. Roger rather than Gold. And then we had Ace, Porcus D. Ace. And now we have Blackbeard out of nowhere, Marshall D. Teach. And what is the Will of D?
This is going to be a hard needle to thread for basically the entirety of this podcast, because we still don't, sorry, spoilers for people who caught up. We don't know what it means. And I feel like at some point while this podcast is running, I'm going to find out and I'm going to be real quiet. And that'll be their way. That'll be the listener's way of knowing I know, and now I can't talk about it.
Right. It's going to be funny, especially we're going to move on, of course, quickly, but it's that one thing that's hovering above this podcast that I know is going to happen if we don't catch up in time, if it ends before we catch up or anything like that. We're going to be spoiled on the ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's impossible.
It's going to be unavoidable. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one of the other major things that happened in One Piece I was spoiled on before I even considered getting into it. Just because like the scale of it took over the internet.
Yeah.
So the end of the manga is just going to be everywhere. Like it just is.
Yeah. It's just one of the big things. So, oh boy, that'll be something.
Yeah, so I try my best. Like I said, I've accidentally kind of gotten ahead of myself on a couple of story threads. So and it's also tricky because sometimes I'm playing dumb, but also times I'm just dumb and I don't remember.
Oh, I feel that. And
so
it's going to be really tricky for you once I'm caught up and like in the new territory. So good luck.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and actually jump into the chapters itself, as unfortunately we begin with, I saw this and I audibly groaned. But let's get into chapter 236, The Ship Sails to the Sky. And we have our new title page series beginning, titled I Wouldn't Die Even If You Killed Me. And all I had to do was take one look and like, oh,
yeah, you see the bite marks, and it's just ugh. And
it's
all
like,
the trees
really?
and the rocks and
him. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, I do want to point out just one of those like funny kind of Japanese phrasings kind of thing, because I don't know if you've ever seen the meme like people die when they are killed.
Right.
That's the screenshot from Fate Stay Night, which is it's just one of those like silly, like that doesn't make any sense. It is one of those like directly translated from Japanese kind of things, but you sort of get what they're saying, but it sounds really silly when you just leave it as is in English.
Yeah.
I wouldn't die even if you killed me. People died when they were killed, kind of thing.
Perfect. So last time we were caught in a whirlpool, and
yes,
we're still caught in a whirlpool as we see. It looks like a giant sea monster get caught in it and then have its neck broken as by trying to resist.
You see the crick, and it's just like, oh.
It's like, which
ooh.
Nami, Usopp, and Chopper are rightfully freaking out at this. Luffy's just sort of dead faced. It's like, whatever.
I love like you sort of like the pause for a beat on the next page, and then just like, all right guys, good luck, you're on your own.
It's like, thanks, and then all the others are like, nobody said about a whirlpool, I'm scared, let me leave, that sort of thing. Even
the Southbird's kind of freaking out a little bit.
Oh yeah, it is. Like these three are just freaking out and trying to be like, no, we shouldn't do this, we're just getting sucked in, it's impossible, we can't do this. And it's like, it's a dream in a dream, and Luffy's like, a dream in a dream, now that's a great adventure. And he's just so happy.
Oh no, you shouldn't have said that. And you see them just everybody accepting their death, accepting their mortality. He looks so happy.
And they actually manage to get into the center of the whirlpool, where it suddenly stops. They're just right in the center of that giant whirlpool, and they see the bubbles, and it's like, oh, it's already begun.
Yeah. And then if things weren't already going from bad to worse, Blackbeard is here.
Right. Also, this raft pirate ship they have is ridiculous. But also, I am very curious about this because I only just noticed. Of course, we have Burgess being one of the ones paddling. He's the helmsman and whatnot. But look at the other one who's paddling, the sick doctor.
Why make him paddle?
Why is he paddling? Why is he not dead? And is he stronger than we think?
Yeah.
This is either a joke or Oda's teasing something.
It could all be a front. You never know.
Right. It definitely feels that way. Blackbeard is like, hey, we're here for your 100 million berry head, so give up. And Luffy's like, wait, I'm worth 100 million berries? Like, wait, you didn't know?
You kind of forget that he didn't know yet. Or even, I mean, like, I guess he wasn't listening when he beat up Bellamy's crew.
Right. He wasn't concerned at the time. And yeah, Blackbeard holds up their post. It's like, yeah, Luffy's worth 100 million. Zoro's worth 60 million. And Usopp's like, hey, it's true. There's a new wanted poster. And of course, Luffy and Zoro are all happy about it. He's like, only 60 million. And Sanji's like, hey, there's one of me right there, right? Nope.
Look again. Nope.
And I love the whole, like, Nami's like, stop celebrating. But of course, it all kind of gets interrupted because the knockup stream is happening, and Luffy's in the right spot as they get ablooshed up. My God.
Yeah. Just just an impressive spread. You're seeing sort of like half of Blackbeard's ship just kind of get demolished in the crossfire. Mm-hmm.
And you can just barely see the Mary thanks to its wings as it goes up that pillar of white, and the way the clouds are just... It's a really impressive spread.
I forgot just like how massive the scale is in this sequence.
Oh, it's
like it just like the Mary is so tiny during all of this, and I'm like, oh right, this is huge.
And then we get even a better sense of scale because we go back to Cricket, who is chain smoking because of sheer nerves, like he's still shaking, which
he'll live. He probably shouldn't be smoking, but...
he really shouldn't be smoking, especially when he's already doing damage to his lungs by diving. So this man is not kind to his body at all. But you can just see the pillar from Jaya, and it's just like, my God.
Yeah. I love the bottom panel where it just like, you're seeing Jaya kind of in the foreground, and it just like, oh man, the perspective on it is really cool as the pillar of light of the ocean water just pierces through the clouds.
It's kind of beautiful in a way. It's just what kind of reminds me of those
majestic
giant DBZ key attacks and whatnot.
Yeah, certainly. It is. This, I don't know. This has to be like one of the most memorable sequences in the manga for me. Of just like, I know I just said that I didn't remember how huge it was in terms of scale, but just like in terms of sort of like the wow factor of how they're getting from point A to B. I think this is like hands down one of the coolest.
It captures that imagination and just having the monkeys like, call out, make it to Sky Island as they're
rooting for you,
riding up vertically up the current. And Luffy's just like, yeah, we can actually make it up. Before Sanji's like, I think we forgot something. The ship's beginning to float, and if we tilt back, we're just going to fall.
Yeah, and we have to deal with gravity.
Right. And then that dead Neptunian from before just falls out of the sky as well.
God. And that panel was what I was like, oh my God. Right. Seeing that tiny little Mary with the wings just off in the corner.
And just the debris falling, the Neptunians, just everything. It's like, oh God. And I like that Luffy's like hanging out on the mast as they're all going. They're like just standing up.
And a couple of pages ago, you see him like upside down. I really love what Oda's doing with like the perspective.
Oh, it's so good. But then Nami gets to just shine. I love those moments when Nami gets to shine. It's just like, can read things like this. It's like, all right, hoist the sail now. It's like the ocean. We can just sail it like we would any other current because the heat from the steam and explosion have created a blast of warm air. So we can just navigate it. This is something navigatable.
She was freaking out earlier.
Yeah.
Here she is, got her head on straight.
Yep. She is just, I'm in my element now. We're good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, they're just like, we're gonna fall. We're gonna fall. It's like, no, we're gonna make it. And sure enough, the Mary's actually able to fly.
That panel where they're just like flying sort of just above the ocean current is it's wonderful.
I wonder if this would have been possible if the ship was any bigger.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because it really feels like they were kind of like gravity wasn't quite on their side, but they managed to make it work.
Right. It just sort of finagled it enough.
Yeah, exactly. Which that feels very, very in line with the Straw Hats. It's just barely making it.
They're all amazed. The ship's flying. Everybody's excited for it, and just like, we did it. And There we go. Let's head straight for the Emperor Cloud, and that ends out the chapter.
Man,
just again, fun stuff to get revealed as far as the bounties and Blackbeard coming after them, but
I forgot they didn't know yet.
just that feeling of, we did it. After all that work, we actually managed to do this.
Yes, it's a crazy plan, but it all ended up working out somehow.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and pop over to chapter 237, High in the Sky, and there's our confirmation. Wapple's omnivorous rampage. I eat trees.
There he is, eating a tree. His face is like a tree.
He's a terrifying Wispy Woods.
I don't like that association.
No.
He's even kind of got the nose. Oh, God.
I mean, should we just say it now? These suck.
Yeah, they really do. There's not really much to say about them. If We'll point something out. I think if there is something worth mentioning, I don't know if there's a story to it at some point, but like these early ones are just like
they're gags. It's just like,
they're just gags.
Here's Wapple as a tree, and we'll cover what else he is. But it's just like, Wapple. But as you pointed out before we started recording, like I think, do we want to like him?
No. Yeah, that's the thing. Like I feel enough sympathy. Or at least, like, some of the other old villains are funny.
Mm-hmm.
I feel nothing towards Wapple. He might actually be the worst villain in the manga. Certainly so far. And it's just like, you know what? I'm glad on one hand that you don't have some kind of funny or otherwise compelling narrative to go along with you. But like, you're just eating stuff and being a menace. And
right.
That's all you need to be. That's all you are.
It's like, do we really need this? Do we need to know what Wapple's up to?
I don't care. I really don't.
I guess we'll find out. Maybe Oda can pull it out. But we'll see. I finished these chapters and like, Wapples. These opening things suck.
They're real bad.
Nice little bit of, I don't know whether, I guess foreshadowing, but also just conveying information where the chapter begins and it just has Luffy kind of drowning. He can't breathe as he's going through the cloud because as we'll later find out, it is an ocean and it's still very much affected.
Yeah, that was a fun, we'll get to it when we get to it, but that was sort of a fun little kind of side confirmation. Like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
That still works.
They burst through, make it, the pillar ends, and Blackbeard's crew is just left watching them as they go. And
they got one little log left. Poor guys.
Yep, everybody's just sort of hanging out, and he's like, I like that he's just laughing. He's like, well, what do you know? They got away.
Yeah, even like they're kind of surprisingly okay with it, but Burgess is the one is just like, go after him, but as if they could. But yeah, it is interesting that Blackbeard's just like, oh well.
And it's like, if we stay on the Grand Line, we'll meet him again soon enough. And just, I forget the sniper's name, but he's like, this world is one big, endlessly turning wheel. And I'm just, I'm wondering how much the dialogue from these guys matter, especially because Blackbeard says, if our will is strong, we'll meet them again.
I think it matters more than you might think.
Yeah. I wonder
that is an educated guess on my part.
Just Blackbeard having this kind of insight. I wonder if he has a better idea of what the will of D is.
It seems like he probably knows more than most characters. Right. If not the will of D specifically, then just kind of like how things work in this world. That is my educated guess.
Okay. Either way, we return. I think that's the last we'll see of them for probably a very long time.
Yeah.
But they made it through the clouds. They're all
poor Mary's had her wings clipped.
Yeah. The sail looks a bit in rough shape. It's looking a little bit rough again.
Yeah.
But they did kind of just go through water with that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like everybody's gasping for air. Upon seeing this, I'm like, it made me think of, once again, Toriyama and Dragon Ball Z. And the reason he chose to make the Super Saiyan blonde, just so he didn't have to ink as much. I'm like, did Oda choose to do a Sky Island just so he only had to draw clouds?
I think on some level, yes, but it's still a lot of lines, and then there are a lot of backgrounds we'll see later on that are still really detailed.
That is true. But some part of it's like, I'll go as easy as possible on myself in these aspects.
I think he could have added a layer of screen tone to give them definition, but like Oda doesn't really use it for shading in the way that like some other manga artists do.
I can see that. But of course we just got the whole, like, everybody's there and they're amazed they're alive, and they're just like, wow, we're sailing on the clouds. He's like, of course we're sailing on clouds. It's interesting too, because Nami points out the log post is still pointing up, even though they're still they made it to the Emperor Cloud. They're still not high enough.
Right. They have to go even higher somehow, which, I just put two and two together that was something that's foreshadowed, that pays off in a chapter or two. But I was like, yeah, right.
Who knew? And oddly enough, I am shocked. I was honestly shocked by this, that, they're sailing on this. And so Usopp is like, I'm going to go for a swim.
This felt weirdly out of character to me.
It really did. And he jumps.
Especially, like, he is scared for his life, like, for the rest of the sequence. And I don't know, the sort of like the random, like, all right, Captain Usopp's on it, and he just yeets himself right in.
And he's like, oh, I'm swimming, there's not hardly any resistance. Oh God, I'm kind of falling now.
He's not coming back up.
And he's like, and Robin points out, it's like, does this ocean even have a bottom? The bottom's kind of the other side of the clouds,
Right, yeah.
And Luffy, thank goodness he's able to stretch into this and still use his devil fruit despite most of them being out of it. Stretches all the way through, and Robin's able to put eyes on Luffy's arm, which is kind of freaky. It's
a little bit freaky, but
that's like a villain design from other animes.
Continuing that, Robin just has the best utility. Right. Crew.
Uses her eyes to spot Usopp, then uses the arms to branch off of Luffy's in order to grab him and can pull him back up.
I wish we kind of got more stuff like this, where like the crew members are kind of comboing off of each other.
Yeah.
It's a really fun idea. I don't think you really see it that often.
Not really, no. But Usopp also makes really good bait as there's giant creatures here too.
This place is cursed. Just like the normal Grand Line. This place is cursed.
And Zora's like, it's nothing. And goes to chop up the octopus, and it's just like a balloon.
Yeah, it just like explodes. Which I feel like, I wonder if that's, because they explain a little bit later that like some of the animals evolved to kind of adapt themselves. So I wonder if like it popped like a balloon if it needed air inside of it to float.
I mean, maybe. I'm sure they could explain it where it's like it needs air inside of it to float, but it also somehow develops helium or hydrogen. I guess.
Right. Yeah. Something like that.
I can see them making up an excuse for how this all works, but poor Usopp has a fish in his pants. and
Usopp's going through it. He's really having a rough time.
Even Robin says, this is an unlucky day.
Yeah, I can't just so passively.
And I think this is the mantra of this set of chapters. Sky Island is scary. Sky Island is scary.
Yeah. All the new things they're experiencing. Just a lot of really like just out there messed up stuff up here.
Mm-hmm. I also love how quick Luffy and Sanji are. It's like Robin's giving this whole explanation. It's like, their bodies are airfoil, so these clouds are far less buoyant than water, and their scales act like feathers. And then Luffy goes off and comes back. Is like, and Sanji's like, I sauteed it. It's like, this is great.
They cooked it fat. Well, you see Luffy kind of like just in the previous panel, just kind of like yoinking it and walking off with it.
It's so good. And then he's like, "Ooh, let's eat the big one because it tastes so tasty."
I love the first thing they do when they get here. They just eat whatever they come across.
Of course they do. It's Luffy. Oh, they're eating and eating.
Yep.
But in the distance, Chopper spots another ship that gets blown up by just a singular person.
Oh God.
And it's like, there's a bull running over the clouds headed straight for us. And it's like, wait, what? It's something's coming. He's running on the clouds. Yeah. And sure enough, we get this man in a mask just launching himself up onto the ship saying, I'm going to get rid of you.
Yeah. And it looks like he's got like a rocket launcher.
Yeah, it does look like a rocket launcher and a shield. We got the three guys like Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy ready to take him on, and he beats them all down.
Yeah, he just. I'm gonna say he has the advantage of surprise on this one.
Yeah, and another reason, as we later learn as well. Now he's even saying, "You wimps! There are three of you and only one of them." And he's about to blow them up when all of a sudden this guy calling himself the Sky Knight comes out of nowhere and stops him.
It's kind of a hype entrance, actually.
Yeah, it really is.
For this random guy bearing a lance and a suit of armor.
I mean, we had Don Quixote Doflamingo in the last set of chapters. Now we have a guy that just looks like Don Quixote.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I see this design.
Yeah. A little bit of a mismatch.
Yeah. I don't think we'll be talking much about the SBS in this set, just because it's sort of talking about One Piece going international and just comparing all the different ways things are pronounced in those countries.
Yeah,
which is interesting, but not really worth going over, I think.
Yeah, if I knew Chinese better, I think I could sort of explain some of the differences. But like, because I do notice that they all, because they all use sort of like, in very broad terms, the same set of characters, but kind of are approximating their Japanese names sort of phonetically. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of the most I was able to get out of it.
Yeah.
There's also surprisingly few countries for 2003.
I guess that's true. We're
how crazy global we are now.
My God. All right. Well, let's get to chapter 238, Heaven's Gate, and Wapol eats lamps. Although I do like the nice little detail that everybody's just kind of annoyed by him. All the animals are like, "What the hell are you doing, man?"
Yeah, right. It's just like the bear, just like Which, you know what? Fair. I'm the animals. That's a mood.
Yeah, they have good taste. But into the chapter itself, we got our Sky Knight saying, basically saying he's gone. So they successfully survived this attack from this guy, and yeah, they didn't get blown up. That's good.
Yes.
And Nami's, of course, still giving them a heck. It's like, hey, he clobbered all three of you. What the heck's up with that? And they're just like, why? Like, even they're like, how did we lose like that? And Robin's like, oh, it's probably because the air is so thin.
Which, hey, that makes sense. And
I was like, you know what? That actually does work out as an explanation.
Yeah, the Sky Knight mentioning here on the next page that they're on the White Sea, which is 23,000 feet above the Blue Sea.
I need to have a scale for that. Like, what is 23,000 feet in this case?
Right. Probably too high.
Yeah. So I tried to look it up, and I found mountains that are about 23,000 feet high, but I don't recognize any of the names. Would be like, oh yeah, this one, to just give an idea. But a lot of lower Himalayan mountains, we'll put it that way.
Okay.
So definitely not as tall as Everest. However,
it's still pretty high up.
Yeah. We should mention, though, he mentions that higher still is the White Sea and the upper stratum, which is 33,000 feet above it. And that I can give you context for, because Mount Everest is only 29,000 feet high.
Ew. Yeah. And again, yeah, look what I'm saying. Most Blue Sea people can't tolerate those altitudes.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Well, again, next page, you just have Luffy and Zoro's like, I'm starting to get used to it.
That just shows how strong these guys are. That they're just like, oh, I got beat down. But like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. Just breathe through it.
So, that's a fun little joke there. But Sky Knight's like, all right, I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but let's talk business. I'm a soldier of fortune, so those unfamiliar with sky fighting are targeted by these gorillas and become food for the skyfish. But I can save you from them. So one whistle for 5 million X-tolls.
I love that pause, and they're just like, what are you talking about?
What the hell's an X-toll? It's like, hey, don't be stingy. That's a good bargain. And, what about a whistle? Usopp is still going, Sky Island is scary.
Right, yeah, this whole conversation, he's just out of it.
And that's when the Sky Knight is surprised himself. He's like, wait.
I laughed so much at this part.
I know. It's like, wait, you guys didn't come by way of the peak of the High West? Then you must have got here by island hopping. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Nami's like, wait. There's more than one way to get to these Sky Islands? He's like, wait, what? You rode the sea current? So
you guys chose the worst option.
Yeah. And Nami's just like, we didn't have to ride the current. What did we do?
Like, just that all that hard work, and you're just like, there was an easier way.
Yeah, we went the hard way. Either everybody lives or everybody dies. So there aren't that many who take that risk, especially these days. So to have that courage and skill, yeah, here's a whistle. You've earned it.
Oh, he's got a freebie. He was going to charge 5 million.
Yeah, I don't know how that translates, but it seems like a lot. But in honor of the courage, they can summon him at any time. We learn his name, though, Ganfor, the Sky Knight. Yeah. And this is Pierre, his partner, this bird thing next to this polka dot bird thing.
I would point out that, so in the sub, and I think just like the anime translation in general, they call him Gonfall.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah, which... That sounds more phonetically, like, I'll probably switch back and forth, honestly. I was kind of like, oh yeah, they called him Gonfor in this one, which you can sort of see where the four became fall and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can definitely see it phonetically how that would end up. I'm likely going to stick to Gonfor just because it's unlike the Mary and Zoro, I don't have that much of an affiliation.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a deal. I'm just looking at the wiki here. Apparently, he's another one of those characters who was early enough to show up in some of like the video games during the 4Kids era. So in that, his name is Gunfall, which is kind of raw.
Gunfall? What the hell? Wow. All right. Sure.
Yeah.
But we got the reveal that he might not have a devil fruit, but Pierre does. He has the power of the horse fruit, and with it, he can transform into a winged horse. And Nami's like, oh, beautiful. He's just like a Pegasus. He's like,
and I love that the silhouette, and you're just like, oh, that's sick.
He's right.
Yeah, you turn the page, and you're just like, oh, right.
Oh, yeah. It's a polka-dotted horse with a funny mouth. It's just like, oh.
And I just love awkwardly flying away. Good luck, brave ones.
And Robbins points out, it's like, we didn't really learn a lot from him, did we? Not really. So we're just kind of back where we started. So we just need to figure out how to go higher up. And let's just call the old man. He's ready to blow the whistle. It's like, no, that's an emergency. I love that ongoing joke of Luffy just like, oh, something minor happened. Let's use the whistle and ask the old man.
Yeah, he does that a few times here, which is great. Mm-hmm. Just all right, you got your one thing, don't waste it.
But they spot a waterfall, so they're like, well, we'll just head that way. But there ends up being a cloud bank, and they're like, okay, I guess it's not part of it. So if it's just a regular cloud, we can sail through it. So Luffy's like, oh, I'll touch it and find out. And his fish just bounces off of it. And I love the sheer delight from Chopper.
Yeah.
It is so adorable.
They're all bouncing around like it's a little like a fun house.
Mm-hmm. It's like cotton, and he's not falling through. And just, of course, all the others want to try it. It's like, oh, it's nice and warm. I could fall asleep. It's even better than a futon that's been hung out in the sun, which
that's
Japanese.
Weirdly specific.
Yeah,
that is very Japanese. These are some of my like favorite One Piece chapters where they're just in a new place messing around.
They're like, this is strange, but like some of them are figuring it out. Others are just like, I love this. I don't care what it is, but I love it. They actually spot a path. I actually like that this fooling around actually works out, and they're able to guide them around all these clouds so they can actually make their way to where they need to go. And that's when they come across this place called Heaven's Gate. And Usopp sees that. It's like, I think we're going to die. It's like,
I love the Zoro. Did you think maybe we're already dead?
That is more likely. It's like, oh, heaven, I can't wait. I'm finally going to heaven from Luffy. I think he expected to go to hell.
There's something about Luffy's face where he's just like, I can't wait. I'm finally going to heaven.
And this wrinkly old woman named Amazon, the Heaven's Gate inspector, comes out and takes a few pictures with her camera. And it's like, all right, are you tourists or have you come to make war? It doesn't matter, but if you want to go to the upper stratum, you'll have to pay the entrance fee of 1 billion X-tolls per person. That's the law. All of a sudden, Gone For here seems really cheap.
Yeah. Wow, yeah.
Meanwhile, Luffy's just like a pruny angel.
Yeah, she's got like wings. It's just one of like all of the characters we have met so far. Mm-hmm. It's just everybody is just weird.
They're like, how much is 1 billion? And Nami just says, what if we don't have any money? Oh, you can pass. Yeah. But she is kind of ominous. It's like, that choice is entirely your own. I'm neither a gatekeeper nor a guardian. I'm merely asking what you wish to do. And it's like, oh, okay, we'll just pass then. And sure. It's like, all right, well, here's the famous Lobster Express. We get these panels of the lobster taking them up this strange path, like this.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. A noodle path that rises into the sky. Yeah, it's like a noodle
kind of curving upwards.
But I like this little foreshadowing here. It's just like, reporting to the omnipotent Kami and his vassals, 7 people have illegally entered Godland Skypiea. Render your heavenly judgment.
Oh,
that's a good way to end a chapter. We're like, ooh, what's that about?
That smirk. Yeah. Fun, I might as well point it out here. Fun translation thing, of course. If you're familiar at all with Dragon Ball, Kami means God, and they're probably just like don't want to overuse the term God, considering as early 2000s, manga people still kind of weary about stuff like that.
Yeah, and Kami does
worry
work.
about it now. Yeah, it works. Yeah, but it is one of those like. Yeah, they did that for a reason, but you know what, there's also precedent for it in Dragon Ball, so you know what, like sure.
Mm-hmm. and God does get tossed around a lot in this arc, so yeah. Either way, time for chapter 239, Angel Beach, as we got Wapple being a bench, which honestly it kind of looks like a pervert there where he's sticking his tongue out at that woman.
Think about that. Don't like that.
Yeah.
Nope.
I mean, speaking of God, we need God. That's why we have the church in the background.
Yeah. No, seriously. I get somebody to take care of this menace.
And here we go. Here's a proper explanation of what this thing is, this noodle thing that we said. It's called the cloud is turning into a belt. And they're just like, there's no way this is natural. And again, we're 3 chapters into being in the Sky Islands. And we have these so many different clouds and creatures and just really putting you into it.
I feel like even compared to Alabasta, just like the variety of weird stuff that's just happening is like on another level.
Oda had this strange idea in his head and he's just going for it to just try to show it off. And they see at the top a sign saying Godland Skypiea. And they're like, oh, it's not an exit, it's an entrance. And you get all these expressions. And I love Nami, Usopp, and Chopper the most, because they were the most worried, but they're the most excited at this point.
Yeah, seriously. And even you got the rare, like, kind of mild surprise from Robin.
Right. That's how she kind of reacts to it. And that's when we see it. The Skypiea, the land of the gods on the white sea. And they find an island. And God, that's cool.
It's really cool. God, it feels very like Jack and the Beanstalk almost.
Yeah, it does have that sense.
It's just kind of, I don't know, you got like sort of clouds and kind of like bridges connecting them and stuff. It's a really unique idea for just a location in general. It's so fantastical.
Trees, and they have an island made of fluffy clouds, and they all disembark and are able to actually walk on it. And Zora, meanwhile, is left like, what do we do with the anchor? It's not really going to catch on anything below, so what do we do?
Yeah, seriously.
But hey, Nami at least lets the Southbird go. Which
I kind of forgot, even though I pointed it out while I was reading for this podcast. I forgot all about the Southbird.
Right.
And he just leaves.
And it's time for some outfit changes. I think this is our first. I mean, technically with Alabasta we got outfit changes, mainly because of covering up for the desert. But this is almost like vacation. Luffy undoes his shirt. Nami and Robin change into. I guess it must be pretty warm up there because they're just in like short sleeve stuff. And Sanji takes off his jacket and just rolls up his pants and whatnot and just goes for it.
Yeah, I feel the one I didn't notice the most was like Luffy. I didn't realize that he had undone his jacket.
Yeah, it does really seem like a vacation, and they point that out. It's like, hey,
yeah, it does feel kind of like tropical, like with the trees and stuff. You got like palm trees up here.
Yeah, and I like that Robin's just like, so sailing the seas and exploring new islands is your idea of adventure. I never thought of it that way. So it's her getting used to the crew. I like it.
Yeah, there's something about like, I feel like on some level she didn't even realize like this is where things would lead her.
Mm-hmm. Very, very different from what she'd experienced up to this point, I feel. And they're like, hey, we can just hang out because the Navy's never going to find us here.
Yeah, it's fun seeing them all like cut loose.
And Chopper is like, oh, this is what a beach is because they've only ever docked at ports. So this is his first time seeing a beach.
Yeah. That's adorable.
Oh, gosh. I like how they're like, hey, let's relax. Proposal rejected. Rejected? What? Don't even really know who's talking there. But I like that they're all just sort of exploring. And Luffy finds this fruit that breaks his teeth, I guess.
He doesn't even know what it is. Again, just like you see something and you just bite into it.
Yeah, I mean,
try to eat whatever you come across.
That's Luffy. But they find like chairs made of clouds that apparently feels different from the fuzzy cloud that you kind of sink into. And all of a sudden, a fox shows up along with a person in the distance playing a harp. So of course Sanji's like, oh, a proper angel.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I guess with again, you know, we got another character with the wings on their back, so we kind of like have an angel in a weird way.
Right. And she just sort of calmly asks, well, she says Hesso, and then he just says, oh, did you come from the Blue Sea? And it's like, yeah, we flew up in the ship. And that's when she's recognized, like, oh, this is Angel Beach. And the thing that Luffy's trying to eat is a konash. So you have to cut it. You have to cut into the top because the shells are hard as a rock. But you just cut it open and put a straw in it, and you can drink from it. And apparently it's really good based on that face from Luffy.
Yeah, it looks it's like sweet. It's just, I did want to point out, Hesso means belly button in Japanese. And I think it's just one of those kind of like weird random humor kind of things, as we see
really?
some other. Yeah, it seems like just
amazing.
like their general greeting up here is just to say just belly button.
Okay, then.
Why. Yeah,
that's really funny. And we get a proper introduction. This is Conus and her cloud fox Sue. And I also noticed that we have the wings, but we also have the little hair things coming up to make them look like Who's from Whoville.
Yeah, right. It's such an oddly specific set of characteristics for the characters up here.
And of course, Konus does fall into the Nami design.
Yeah,
philosophy.
Yeah. And again, I guess if it weren't for the wings and the weird Whoville hairballs, just kind of the same face.
also kind of the lips. She has fuller lips than Nami.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, otherwise it's his Nami design again. He's like, hey, we have a lot of questions, and they're like, hey, we'll answer them. Oh, but in the meantime, there's my father. And I like the way the translation after what you said. It's like Luffy's face totally works. I was like, why are you saying belly button? Probably in Japanese, exactly. But for us, it's like, what's Hesso mean? Which is, for an English speaker like me, it's like, oh, it's just their way of saying hello.
Yeah, it works on both levels of just kind of like, what a bizarre greeting.
Mm-hmm. And that's when we're introduced to the waiver, where her father actually crashes into it, and he actually asks, is anyone hurt? It's like, you're the one who crashed.
You're the one who crashed. Yeah.
And that's when Nami remembers, like, hey, didn't you salvage something like that? And that's the waiver that was mentioned in Nolan's diary, the boats that run without wind.
I love, like, the small little details we're getting that the Nolan diary was all true.
Yeah. Nolan was true. That thing they found that Luffy was looking at was this waiver. It's really cool. They just sort of like, oh yeah, they're welcome to the White Sea. I guess they must have gotten lost. Like, no, we're not lost. And his name is Pagaya. He got a sky lobster for them. He's like, hey, let's eat. And they're like, okay, that's all you had to say. But Nami, of course, is very interested in the waivers. Like, how there's no sail to catch the wind, and you weren't rowing. So how does this move over the waves? And all we get is the introduction of, oh, you must not know what a dial is.
And that's where we end off.
Yeah, it's not much of a cliffhanger, but it's also makes you curious. Like, what's up with a dial? What is that?
Yeah, for sure. I have some comments to say about the dials, but I think we can wait for the proper introduction next chapter.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, let's get to that chapter. 240, our last for the set, Dial Power. And we get Wapol doing something other than making jokes. He eats a town.
Just the whole town. Again, just making a menace of himself.
Yep. I am so happy we're focusing on this character.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun.
maybe next time it'll be better, but either way. We get a breakdown. We have an accelerator and looks like a brake on the other side, and Luffy gives it a try, and he keeps going. It's like it just shakes too much, and he immediately falls off and crashes. And
yep. He's just flying off into the distance.
And it's just like, maybe we shouldn't have let him ride it alone. And that's when they start wondering, it's like, hey, do you think people with devil fruit powers sink into the sea like they do in water? Well, it's not a normal sea, so maybe he'll float. And they see him start drowning. Drowning is like,
all right. It was like, I like getting confirmation of that is good. Just sort of off to the side.
Yeah, and they just got the dumb jokes. It's like, he almost fell through, and it's like, it's your fault for just standing around saying stupid stuff. And then Ubisoft's like, why did you jump in after him, Chopper? And Chopper's just on the Sky Island. It's scary. And Pagaya sort of breaks it down a bit better. It's like, so waivers are built very light for the sake of speed, but even a small wave can send them out of control. So the operator has to understand the sea and anticipate the waves, and it's just apologize for it. They're like, it's that difficult? And Conus is like, oh, I've been practicing since I was a child, and I only recently learned how to drive it. So it takes about 10 years. And of course, I love moments like this. And I love that it's not Luffy or anything like that. It's the one who makes the most sense because she just has that preternatural talent for it.
Yep.
Nami immediately takes to it and is able to ride it.
Yeah. And it completely, he just said that, the operator must understand the sea and anticipate the waves. And it's like, well, your navigator.
Yeah. Who can read storms and knows this stuff extremely well. Yeah. It makes sense that she would know how to do this. And I love how Luffy immediately becomes a child out of jealousy.
He's so salty.
Yeah. He's like, we're going to the old man's house. Hurry up and get off. Get right off now, you dummy. You stupid.
Yep. Sanji just kicks him.
She's just like, I'm going to just play with this for a while. It's like, I wonder if it would work on a normal ocean. And it's like, man, I'd love to have one. But Luffy's is probably too damaged. And she's she's just having fun. And meanwhile, Luffy's like, sink.
Oh,
I don't know. It's fun. I love that. It is sort of child.
It's rare to see Luffy just like jealous.
He does not get jealous too often because usually he's able to just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's a sort of fall back into just like angry child mode.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of get an explanation of the society where we have a cloud quarry where they cut clouds for construction. And
God, all this stuff is so wild. I completely forgot that this is how it worked up here.
Mm-hmm. And apparently that road they took was called the Milky Road. It's a man-made cloud canal.
They said, like, while they're going up it, like, there's no way this is natural. And they're like, yeah, it's not.
Yeah, which I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. But they're like, so the one your ship can traverse on is a sea cloud, and the fluffy clouds that you can walk on are island clouds. So that's, nice and simple. And they're like, hey, can you swim and ride on waver on normal clouds? It's like, no, these clouds have entirely different condensation from normal clouds. So there's a mineral known as sea prism stone in the blue sea. And God, the technicality is like, so sea prism stone is in the clouds. It's like, well, there's an ingredient in it called pyrobloin. Particles of keratin are hurled into the sky by volcanoes and they absorb moisture. Depending on their density, they either become sea clouds or iron clouds. Oda the Madman has an in-universe explanation for how this works. That ties into everything else.
I wonder, I would have to check with some... I wonder how much that actually does end up connecting to sea prism stone. I genuinely don't remember.
Yeah. The basic idea is like sea prism stone also contains this thing called pyrobloin. And the stuff that's hurled up by volcanoes get absorbed into the moisture. And just the way they work, they increase the density, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, I love, of course, like it's easy to kind of get bogged down on all the exposition, and you just have Luffy and Usopp just like, oh yeah, totally.
Makes perfect sense, right?
They just want to see smart.
So island clouds are cut at the cloud quarry and then compressed to achieve the desired density. So they're man-made clouds, and there we have a house. And that's when we get introduced to the dials, where we have a like Usopp. Luffy just goes, "Usopp, you idiot!" Usopp's like, "What did I do?"
I just that face, just his noodle arm in the background kills me.
And she's like, "Okay, now just push the top of the shell," and then it repeats what he just said. It's like amazing recorded sound, and this is what's known as a tone dial. So a shellfish that lives in the white sea that can record and reproduce sounds. We mostly use them to record music. And Luffy, of course, is having just fun saying, Usopp, you idiot, over and over again.
You've given a child a recorder.
So Zoro, of course, immediately asks, like, okay, if there's no seafloor, where do these shellfish live? Well, we get them from soundbars around the reefs. And Robin's just like, okay, so this is a dial, but how does it make a waver move? Well, we use these to propel our wavers, only a larger version. This is a wind dial. So if you force air into it for 30 minutes, wind will blow out for 30 minutes on command. And Luffy does a little demonstration of how it works.
It's kind of like, I don't know, like we're getting so much kind of direct information about the technology and sort of like how society works up here in Skypiea.
Yeah, it's just breaking it all down.
They have all these sorts of unique concepts. There's so many unique concepts.
Oh my gosh, I've tried my hand at writing before and coming up with concepts, and I've always struggled with how do I explain this stuff.
Yeah, seriously.
So the fact that Oda can do this and make it feel so natural.
Yeah, and like really, it's pretty much like every arc, there's just new kind of crazy stuff unique to that arc. I do like, not that I want to get like super into it, but dials kind of show up here and there again across the story, and it's kind of like every time I'm like, oh yeah, the dials! Like,
yeah,
it just kind of surprise you with how he's able to remember and weave them in.
They're talking about the waver again, but ours is old and beat up, and she's like, and Usopp's like, oh, after 200 years, I doubt it'll run. And she just goes, well, we can never tell. A dial is merely the shell of a dead shellfish, so as long as it's intact, it should function. So they just need to build a new one around it.
I had a random epiphany just now. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I wonder if, like, technologically, these have any connection to the snails, because we kind of have like different uses of shell, like kind of based technology. It makes me wonder if there is a sort of like a lore connection there. I genuinely do not know if there is one.
I mean, it makes a bit of sense to just have that idea in there. I don't know. There's some very special shellfish in this world.
Yeah, seriously. And even so, on the the next page, they have one that like they have a lamp dial that collects light. So they have they have the technology able to record stuff. They have sort of basically like electricity, and Conus goes on to say they've even got like flame dials to preserve heat, and scent dials for smells, vision dials, and just all sorts of dial-based technology.
Yeah, and it's cool to see like the kitchen and see the example here of how they're kind of cooking, because of course Sanji wants to learn how to make this fish, and he's like, This blue sky-colored sauce is too weird. I tasted it, but it's disgusting. My tongue's going numb. Oh, sorry, that's spoiled.
Right? It's like, oh, that's not weird. That's just like that's just gross.
Yeah, and they make it the Sky Island food, and it all looks delicious. And that's when as they're eating, they notice, hey, where'd Nami go? Well, she's probably still on the waiver, but I don't see her. She just went out a little further. So forget her. And that's when Conus brings up, it's like, I hope she's all right. And like, what? So in Skypiea, there is one place you must never go, no matter what. It borders our island, so it's easy to reach by a waiver. It's a place called the Upper Yard, the domain of the Kami. And that scale of Nami next to these giant trees.
The forest is just massive.
And it's this sacred forest that they apparently should not go on. And it's so unique that Nami's by herself and just in this dangerous place. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen that often. And it just, by introducing if you introduce a location by saying, don't go there no matter what.
That's where they go.
By natural course. It's like, all right, we're here.
We're here. And I guess last arc we were dealing with deserts. Time for rainforest for this scale. My God.
Yeah, it's just massive.
That's it for now. It's all build up and introduction and setup and setting it and just showcasing this stuff. But the concepts are so wild.
Yeah, this is again just like One Piece world building is just some of my favorite stuff.
It just fits so naturally and just makes it fascinating, really. That's really all it comes down to. Just wow.
I can't wait to see all of the ways in which it'll be utilized again. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember about how this plays out. So
I have a feeling they're setting up a lot of this stuff. Well, one, to just establish the world, but also to have things happen within that world. So I feel like we're still in for some more setup chapters for the next one. But I think we're going to start learning why we shouldn't be in the domain of the Kami. I have a general sense of Skypiea. I don't remember the specifics and how they go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited to see where this all goes.
Yeah. With that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 236 to 240 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube or BitNerd with an underscore at the end on Twitter. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. So by the time this episode goes out on YouTube, I think the demo for One Piece Odyssey comes out on the 10th.
Oh, okay.
So do I have that right then?
You might be. I think you said that before. So yeah.
I think it'll be so after this episode comes out. I intend on and maybe I'm publicly announcing this that I will be playing the demo. So hold me to it. And if you want to see me go through that, it'll be on twitch.tv/Brandon Bovia.
Yeah.
Just same as my name, easy to find.
I guess that means next time we'll get some of your impressions from it as well.
Yeah, actually, all right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that sense, but I will report back with my findings.
Sounds good. You have to let me know. I'm sure it's probably early in, but it's just like, let me know if it's worth a shot. Maybe I'll try to play it as well. We'll see if I can find the time.
Yeah, I feel like the game itself is probably like, don't you're not caught up. You probably shouldn't play it, but the demo will probably be okay. I don't see the harm in that.
I think so. I think you're right. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 241 to 245 of One Piece. Until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
Now listen, that price is quite reasonable. I can't afford to lower it a single X-Toll more. I have to earn a living too.
Yeah, but what the heck is an X-Toll? And what's this whistle thing or whatever?
You don't know? I don't understand. You came here from the summit of High West, didn't you? Surely you must have passed an island or two.
I still don't know what you're talking about.
Wait, let me get this straight. You're saying there's another way we could have gotten up here where we would have passed an island or two? As in there's more than one Sky Island?
What? Don't tell me you traveled by way of...
We rode up on the knock-up stream.
My word, that monstrous current? So there are still souls in the world brave enough to make the attempt.
I knew it, so we risked our lives for nothing. Are you happy? We could have all been killed if we just asked around a little more. We could have found a safer way to get here. With all the rest of and insane things. What were you thinking?
Scary.